Okay, so let's finish up our last example in Blackboard assignment number 12. And I'm going to actually fill this in a little bit better than I did example 1 because I forgot the rest of the steps to outline them for you, even though they're relatively easy since they're right there in front of you. But in example 2, we're going to be dealing with cosine. So again, if you look at your original parent function of what cosine looks like, you're going to have a graph that's going to be similar to that shape. We're going to have two maximums, a minimum, and whether it's stretched or squished together, the idea is that it's going to have a similar shape to our parent function. So in example 2, a couple things I want to make sure we outline first is that there's technically 3 steps for both sine and cosine for graphing these. And the first, like I said in example 1, our first step is outlining what A is, what B is, and what the period is. Okay, so the first step is finding those 3 pieces of information. From there, step 2 is really finding our intercepts. Alright, so step 2 is really finding the intercepts, or where our graph crosses our x-axis. And then step 3 is really finding our maximums and minimums of that graph. And again, steps 2 and step 3 are dependent on what you find and what you pull out for step number 1. So again, we have our general form for cosine, y equals a cosine of bx. A is the number in front of cosine, b is the number in front of x. So if we pull out this information, we know our a is 4 and our b value is 2. Okay, so the idea here is that since A is 4, our graph is going to really be a positive 4 and a negative 4 when we go about and graph this. Okay, so it kind of gives us an idea of how tall and how low our graph is going to be in between those values. The period, again, one full time around our unit circles 360 degrees. So we get the period by taking 360 degrees and dividing it by our B value. So 360 degrees divided by 2 gives us a period of 180 degrees. Okay. At this point, I want to stop and just kind of refer you down to a graph that's already given to you. On both checkpoint number 1 that you did before this video and checkpoint number 2 that you're going to do after this video, you're going to actually be kind of drafting out these graphs on your own. I know they're given to you, but the idea is that you're kind of getting used to creating these graphs on your own. A couple things I want to point out is the period is 180 degrees, which means horizontally we go up to 180 degrees as our maximum degree for that one period, which it is in this case. We also want to change these to positive, because we know that positive-wise, these should all be positive. I'm not really sure why they turned out negative. And then from here down, this is -1, so we go down 4. So again, we get those values from our A, which is our amplitude. Okay, so that's how high and low our graph is going to be. So it's going to span vertically just between those numbers. The next is finding the intercepts. So again, if we look at our original cosine parent graph, we know we only have 2 intercepts in one given period, and those tend to happen at 90 degrees and 270 degrees. So because we're scaling everything by our B value, we're going to scale all of our quadrantal angles by that same value, which in this case is 180 degrees. So since our intercepts happen at 90 and 270, 90 and 270, we're still scaling everything by our B value, which is 2. I'm sorry, not 180, but 2. So 90 divided by 2 gives us 45 degrees. And then 270 divided by 2 gives us 135 degrees. Since they're intercepts, just like the intercepts of our graph showed us here, we know that they happen when the y value is 0. So we know that at 45 degrees and at 135 degrees we have our intercepts. The last is finding our maximum and minimum. So let's look at the maximums first, since there are 2 of them. In our parent function, our maximum happens at 0 degrees and our other maximum happens at 360. Again, we're scaling all of our degrees by our b value, which is 2, so we're dividing everything by 2. 0 degrees divided by 2 doesn't change anything, it's still 0 degrees. And since it's a maximum, our maximum always happens at our a value. Since our a value is 4, we know we have a max at 4 and 0 degrees. 360 divided by our b value, which is 2, gives us 180 degrees, which makes sense since that's what we got for the period. That should be our highest number. Again, it's a maximum, so it happens at our a value, which is 4. So we know that we're going to end up there. Lastly, our minimum, if we go back to our cosine values here, our minimum happens at 180 degrees. If we scale that by our b value, 180 degrees divided by b gives you 180 degrees divided by 2 and negative a. So 180 divided by 2 gives you 90 degrees, which is our last guy here. Negative a, which is negative 4. If I go down to 4, and I connect these, and remember, since my a is 4 and negative 4, I can't go above or below those values. So once I hit 4, I know I'm going to be going down along my y's. So I can't go past that. That's going to be my range. So I end up with a graph that looks similar to what my parent graph should look like. The difference here again is that we're actually cutting it in half. Our parent function, our original function, goes 360 degrees. Here in one period we're at 180, so we're actually half the distance when we graph it. And then our normal amplitude is between 1 and negative 1. Here we're between 4 and negative 4, so we're also stretching it. So our graph has the same generic look to it, although our numbers, intercepts, maximums, minimums, all of those ordered pairs are different in number. Okay, so again, last thing to do for homework for the next time that we meet is to do checkpoint number 2. So the graph's given to you. You want to make sure that you do step numbers 1, 2, and 3. So you want to get ordered pairs for all of these. Don't just graph it. I need ordered pairs. I need an a value. I need a b value. I need the period value, as well as all of the intercepts, maximums, and minimums. So I need all steps from numbers 1 through 3 included for both checkpoint number 2 and checkpoint number 1 from the first example. If you have any questions, I'll be around earlier in the day if you want to stop in. Otherwise, we'll check these checkpoints and talk about any questions you may have in class the next time we get together.